Thank you for being here today. Maybe that won't fall. I have with me today Jeff Watson. He's a Florida Department of Law Enforcement acting assistant agent, special agent in charge. I have Sherry Onks. She's the special agent in charge of the FBI in the Jacksonville office. I have Nick Aletta. He's from the NCIS, and Chris Huban. He's the deputy director of the state attorney's office. We recently conducted Operation Keystroke. And the strength of our investigation simply is our partnership with other law enforcement agencies. We all have to work together to make sure our community is safe. The agencies that participated in this operation, along with NCSO, were the FBI, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, Panama City Beach Police Department, Fernandina Beach Police Department, our local state attorney's office, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Also a North Florida HIDA. I'm especially proud of our NCSO employees for their hard work, coordination, and extensive planning they did to prepare for this operation. For never having done one like this before, for me, it was amazing to see. They are simply the best, and I am so thankful to be able to work alongside them every day. We understand that criminals don't come and go according to city limits, county boundaries, or even state lines, and neither does our efforts. We are all one, and this is another example of that. So we did a 4-day operation, and the focus of the investigation was to target individuals who utilize the internet and social media platforms to prey on our children and solicit them for sex. If it weren't for the heroic work of the undercover detectives and personnel from all of these agencies, your children could have been targeted. They could have been victims, but they weren't, because we stood in the gap between good and evil. I will say this, though. If you are a parent, the results of this operation should scare the crap out of you, literally. I couldn't believe how many grown men wanted to have sex with what they thought was a 13 and 14-year-old child, telling the child nasty things they wanted to do to them and what perverted things they were going to do to the child. It was disgusting. And as a father and a grandfather, it made me want to puke. During the 4-day operation, we made 11 arrests. The overwhelming majority came from areas outside of Nassau County, mainly Jacksonville. But there were some others that came from other states who just happened to be in our area and decided to drop by. They were grooming children and doing real nasty things online. Instead of meeting with children, they were met by law enforcement officers who were online posing as children. Even some of those we arrested are married and they have children themselves. We came into contact with real monsters, real scary, creepy people. What you see on the board here are deviants, incredible deviants. All of these perverts and sickos need to be locked up. These disturbed people are out there. They're real. And I shudder to think about how many have gotten away with this before or continue to do it. At one point, we had several chatting at the same time with undercover detectives who they thought was a 14-year-old child, wanting to come have sex with these underage children, and that is scary. But here's what's important to understand, and I want parents to understand this. These aren't your traditional criminals, but what they're doing, these evil people, they're lurking online, searching and grooming children online to engage them in sexual contact. 10 of those arrested actually traveled to an undercover location for sex and one we arrested on a warrant. They provided very raucous communication and some sent pictures, inappropriate pictures, nude pictures, to what they thought was a 13 and 14-year-old little child. And if they are willing to travel to a child's location to have sex, then I don't believe it's their first time doing this. So there has to be other victims out there. And if you are a victim, I encourage you to please contact law enforcement. So let me introduce to you some of these fine, upstanding individuals. This is Richard Capra. Richard lives in Yulee, and he's 43 years old, and he works at Final Touch RV Detailing. He thought he was traveling to have sex with a 14-year-old child. That's right. He came to our undercover location thinking he was going to have sex. He said he would pay her $125 and would use a condom so he wouldn't get her pregnant. He is a career criminal, and he was released from the Florida State Prison in 2018 after about 15 years for burglary and aggravated assault. Now he's a jailbird again. This is Tavares Jamal Andrews. He's 31 years old from Lehigh Acres in Florida. He stated he wanted to have sex with what he believed to be a 14-year-old child and sent her a nasty picture of himself. He told her he didn't like to use condoms, but he promised he wouldn't get her pregnant. He stated some other things that were so vulgar and nasty I'm not going to repeat them. However, he traveled to the undercover location to have sex with what he thought was a 14-year-old child. Guess what he does for a living? He's a captain in the United States Army. You might ask, where is this individual stationed? At West Point Military Academy. Here's a picture in his Army uniform. Looks good. Here's a picture in his jail uniform. He's a bad, bad person. He was so brave to message all the things he was going to do to that child. When he walked up to the undercover location and was met by law enforcement officers, he ran like a coward, throwing his phone and wallet away as he's running. But we caught him. We also found his phone and ID. And it makes me wonder what else he's run from. We have notified his command of his arrest, and he was supposed to fly back to New York, but instead he got a jail van ride to the county jail. This is Justin Campbell. He's 33 years old, and he's from Woodbine, Georgia. He works at Sonic. He solicited sex acts from what he thought was a 14-year-old child. He wanted to have what he described as nasty, nasty sex and wanted naked pictures of the child. He crossed state lines, which is a federal offense, and he was willing to pay her $50 and also brought some Sky vodka to the undercover location for the minor to drink. This is Sprite Elliott Pileski. He is 19 years old. He's from Jacksonville, and he works at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. He traveled to an undercover location after soliciting sex from what he thought was a 14-year-old child. He vividly described exactly what he would do to the 14-year-old when the minor got into his car. After his arrest, he admitted to communicating with the 14-year-old child and soliciting sex acts. However, usually they change their story when they're caught. He said he just was wanting to tell the child in person that she shouldn't be on websites soliciting prostitution because there are nuts out there. Well, there sure are nuts out there, nuts like him. He also had 120 grams of marijuana inside his vehicle as well. This is Charles Lakeith McPhail. He is 24 years old, and he is from Jacksonville. His birthday was actually the day after he was arrested. So happy birthday, Charles. He spent his birthday in jail. He wanted to do what he described as smash the 14-year-old child. He said he would use a condom and he wouldn't impregnate her and would pay her $120. After he showed up to the undercover location to have sex with what he believed to be a 14-year-old child, he was arrested. But he changed his, he said, I just really wasn't going to do anything. Just wanted to talk. This is Baraka Jamal Johnson. He's 25 years old, from Jacksonville. He works at Chipotle. He solicited sex acts from what he thought was a minor 14-year-old child and wanted her to have sexual intercourse with him, as well as multiple other people taking turns with her. When the 14-year-old said she didn't want to get pregnant, he advised her that he would use a condom. When he showed up to the undercover location, he was arrested. When he was searched, he had 17.3 grams of marijuana in his possession. This is Khalil Malik Nether. He's 26 years old, and he's from Sumner, Georgia. He doesn't have a job. He proceeded to tell the 14-year-old child what he would do to her sexually in explicit terms. He then stated, "You're not going to get me in trouble with the police or anything like that, are you?" No, I would never do anything like that. He traveled to an undercover location to meet the 14-year-old for sex. Once he was met by law enforcement who approached his vehicle, he was ordered to get out. But instead, he backed his car up and took off. But he crashed into a tree and then got stuck in a ditch. He said he just wanted to meet up with the 14-year-old child to chill and just see where everything goes. He also wanted to know if this would mess up his chances at joining the Army. Maybe he ought to ask the Army captain. This is Antonio Raquel Morales. He's 30 years old, and he's from Jacksonville, and he works for Morales Pavers. He was going to give the minor $100 for sexual intercourse, and he said he would wear a condom. He also wanted to see naked pictures of the child. When he showed up at the undercover location, he was met by deputies and arrested. By the way, he was also charged with 6 counts of possession of child porn on his phone. This is Carlos Eugene James. He's 34 years old, from Jacksonville. He traveled to the undercover location to have sex with what he thought was a 13-year-old child. He thought he was communicating with the child's mother, who was offering her daughter for sex. When he was told her daughter was only 13 years old, he said he was okay with that. This guy's sick. He proceeded to say what he was going to do sexually to the child and what he wanted her to do. He also wanted to have his way with her. By the way, he works for Canines for Warriors. Now, this in no way should reflect negatively on their organization. Canines for Warriors do great work for canines and veterans all over our state with PTSD. They just had a bad apple. A lot of organizations have that. And when those bad apples surface, you get rid of them, just like any other organization does. This is Jeremy Montrell Kinsey. He's 30 years old. He's from Jacksonville with no job. He communicated online for sex, but when he found out she was 14, he said he was no longer interested, saying she had to be old enough to buy cigarettes. Well, he got to thinking about that. His brain cells kind of went dim. And a couple of days later, he decided she didn't have to be old enough to buy cigarettes. He just couldn't resist the urge to have sex with a 14-year-old child. So we reconnected online with our undercover detective to see if she was still available. He was now okay that she was only 14, and he was willing to give her $50-something for sex and will wear a condom so he wouldn't impregnate her. He won't be getting any cigarettes in jail. I apologize for the blurry picture, and I'll explain why in a minute. This is Jeffrey Allen Burrell. You've heard of dirty old men? This is a picture of a dirty old man. He's 68 years old, and he is from Fort Myers, Florida. He contacted what he thought was a 14-year-old child and wanted her to perform a sex act on him in his car for $80. He stated if she wanted to do it twice, he would certainly be there for $150. He asked her, "You don't mind 30 minutes in the car, do you?" When he first learned she was only 14, he stated 14 is prison term. Smart guy. But he thought about it, and he got dumber. So he contacted her again the next day to see if she was still around and was interested in getting together. He also wanted to know if she was too young for 420, which is a slang for marijuana. He stated he was in Brunswick, Georgia area and would come to meet her, but he lied. He never showed up. By the way, he is a law enforcement officer at the Lee County Port Authority Police Department in Fort Myers, Florida. We could not get his booking photo when we went down to arrest him. This is a picture of him in the office when we arrested him. Also, he retired after 31 years of law enforcement service at the Quincy Police Department in Massachusetts. Now, this is the first time we have conducted an operation like this here at the Sheriff's Office, so we didn't know what to expect. You never know who you're going to get. Could be your neighbor, could be someone you know. My hope was we didn't catch anybody, but I was proven wrong. We have participated in other operations like this in other counties a few times. However, looking at these results, this definitely will not be our last. It takes a lot of resources to conduct one of these operations. You have to have people who chatter back and forth with these deviants on the internet. You have to have surveillance personnel, intelligence officers, apprehension teams, cell phone forensic people, interview and warrants detectives, vehicle processing, jail transport, attorneys for probable cause review, supervisors, and the list goes on. It takes a lot of planning and coordination, especially for an agency our size. Since we don't have the resources, that's why we all have to work together. Child pornographers can go into the deep, dark web, and they are very difficult to find. But child predators have to surface. They have to go into chat rooms. They have to go into gaming rooms. They have to be where children are. They are constantly searching and looking for ways to hook up with these young children. By doing this operation, we truly believe that we are saving children's lives and protecting them from deviants such as this. We're also looking at possibility of obtaining warrants for a few more that we are not showing, because if we do, we want to get them into custody first. But just know that wherever you are, if you've been talking nasty and sending filthy pictures to what you thought was a child, we are after you. And if we didn't get you this time, we will get you next time. And then I'll have a picture of you. In order to stop this, we need parents to quit being in denial that their child would never think about doing something like this. Second, parents have to understand that the first line of defense is at home. So they need to be all up in their child's business. Now, I'm sure some may not want to do that, but I believe you'd rather be all up in your child's business than let one of these scumbags be all up in your child's business. If you give your child a cell phone, I recommend first don't let them out into the internet world. But if you're going to let them out into the internet world, then you need to have an app on your phone where you can trace and know everything your child is searching, who they're talking to. You have to do that. If not, these folks will get to your children. A word to the wise. I don't want people to violate the law. I don't want people to commit morals crimes that creates and supports an industry of human traffickers. I don't want to create an environment where predators seek young girls. If you think you're going to attack children or create an environment for human trafficking, not in this county. Not now. Not ever. We have a safe community, and I am going to do my best to keep it that way. Our citizens want law and order. Our county is growing tremendously, but along with that growth comes public safety issues and concerns, which we as a community must tackle together. And I'm proud to say our citizens support public safety. They may not in some other areas of the country, but they damn sure do here. So now I want to introduce Sherry Onks, Special Agent in charge of the FBI Jacksonville office.
Thank you, Sheriff Leeper. I am proud standing here side by side with you and our other partners to announce the incredible results of Operation Keystroke. Like all of you, I'm sickened and I'm angered by the actions of these 11 individuals, each of whom intended to harm innocent children. Unfortunately, every year, thousands of kids across the country suffer horrific abuse at the hands of sexual predators. It's an especially disturbing crime that transcends all cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds, and it's a crime that FBI Jacksonville, along with our law enforcement partners, will never stop fighting. Operation Keystroke reinforces that message. And we're extremely grateful to the dedicated men and women in law enforcement who work tirelessly on this operation. Our streets are safer today because of their work. And going forward, we'll continue to coordinate and collaborate with the Nassau County Sheriff's Office and all of the partners that you see here today to take proactive approaches and action to remove child predators from the community to keep our children safe. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Sheriff Leeper.
Thank you. Are there any questions we can answer for you?
Sheriff, what say you when the defendants claim entrapment?
They can claim all they want. Nobody held a gun to their head to talk to a 14-year-old child who they thought was a 14, 13-year-old child and what they're going to do sexually to them. They're scumbags. They're idiots. They're deviants. They're bad, bad people. And they're out there in our community, and you don't know who they are. That's why if you're a parent, you better make sure what your child's doing. If not, one of these people will get a hold of them.
I know you probably don't want to, give out your exact process, but can you make clear of what it is, how you chose, how did you know that each of them would be subject to this?
They chose us. They were searching online.
Okay, so they go first.
They go first online, and they hook up with one of our chatters. And, hey, I'm only 14. That's okay. So I'm not going to get into the weeds and the details of it, but they reach out to us.
So were these men all arrested in Nassau County? Like, because obviously some of them aren't from here. How did they get to Nassau County? Or
10 of these individuals traveled to Nassau County to an undercover location to have sex with what they thought was a 14-year-old child, but they were met by law enforcement and arrested. One did not travel. He's from Fort Myers, Florida, the police officer. We traveled to Fort Myers, interviewed him. We had a warrant for his arrest and arrested him down there and booked him into the Lee County Jail.
So if convicted, what are some of the levels of time?
Anybody want to speak to that? They're all felonies, so just depends on the judge.
And would you say when it comes to, what are some of the, I know you probably can't give details on this either, but just to ask, when it comes to the signals, or, you know, what is it that you're specifically looking for? How do you know that they are going to reach out to maybe a 14, 15-year-old?
We don't know they are. I was hoping we wouldn't get anybody, but they reached out, and we connected with them, and we arrested them.
Are they being held in jail on any bonds or any things like that?
They have bonds, some may be out now, some not. We did this at the end of August, 4 days at the end of August, so
And how soon do you plan on doing an operation like this again?
we don't know. We could do it anytime. So if you're talking online, what you think is a child, telling them what you're gonna do to them sexually, and what you want them to do, it could be us, and we'll come and arrest you.
I see. I know you can't disclose certain details about the online platforms that you may have used, but would these platforms where they were speaking to your undercover agents, would these platforms be common and well-known to the public? Popular, large platforms?
Anybody that's got internet access can reach them. So, it's anybody.
And can you talk about, you said towards the end of August is when the arrests were made, but can you give idea into how long this process took for them, like reaching out, you actively pursuing, setting up, you know, the location? How long did that portion take?
It was a 4-day operation that they reached out to us when we started.
Okay.
They didn't reach out till we started. 4 days.
So that's a lot for 4 days, if you think about it.
That is scary. 4 days. You know, like I say, it takes a lot of resources, a lot of effort. But getting these people off the street is worth it.
Speaking of resources, since you've had such unfortunately incredible results in the 4-day operation, are you going to collaborate with other sheriff offices here in Northeast Florida, as well as like the St. Johns County you mentioned and other agencies? Are you going to expand to like Jacksonville Sheriff's Office or, you know, Clay or Baker County?
We do participate with other agencies that are having operations like this, because we all need help. So we send them help if they ask for it. So yes, we will be participating in other operations. So.
Are there any specific platforms that you think that parents should keep a close eye on? Or just obviously keep an eye on your children's, you know, if they're going online, but are there any specific platforms that you're noticing?
Parents need to know who their child is talking to on any platform. I don't care what it is. They need to know what they're doing at all times. These can act like they're a child's age, just chatting back and forth. Next thing you know, they're grooming them to do something else. So you have to make sure you're keeping track of your children. Don't give them a phone, don't give them internet access, and let them entertain themselves. These people are out there, they're real. They'll go after you.
Did any of these men conceal their age, or did they all openly say how old they were?
They did conceal their age.
Time for one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
What are they charged with?
The charges are on the board here, underneath their names, so you can come up later. But they're charged with a variety of charges. All right, thank y'all for being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Sheriff.
it.
Is there an opportunity